Welcome to Mamahood After Trauma. I'm Emily, your host. Here we share strategies and inspiration to help you heal and grow with kindness and understanding. Let's dive in. This is Mamahood After Trauma. Hey there, Mama. Before we dive in, I want to remind you to grab your Unlocking Peace Guide, a free resource designed to help you start creating calm, reclaim your peace, and manage your triggers with ease. Head over to my website, the link is in the show notes, to download it now. Hello, Mama, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I am thrilled that you have taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen. Today, we are joined by Emma Lyons. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's dive in by having you introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit about how you came to be working in the space.
Well, that's a really great question, a really interesting question. I have been kind of in the whole healing area for many years now. And my story is that I started off studying law and then had like quarter life crisis and found healing and was looking to heal myself. And what I found is that I was constantly sabotaging and struggling, even though I was working on all my belief systems and doing all the right things. And I just had a very deeply ingrained shame voice. It was kind of like I was just steeped in shame, and nothing really changed until I started to address that and take my power back. Because what was happening every time I would work on my beliefs or do healing, the shame would kind of pull me back into it. So now I work with people. I've identified this thing, in my case, as a kind of narcissistic voice. And I realized that, because all my life I was wondering what was wrong with me. Why am I like this? And it turns out that my mom is a covert narcissist. So I was brought up in a dysfunctional family system and I was kind of a scapegoat. So it all kind of made sense. And I realized that it wasn't just about belief systems, it was about a role that I had taken on. And all of this shame that I'd internalized had basically been running my life the whole time. None of the healing that I did really addressed that deeply enough. It was addressing kind of the symptoms rather than going to the core and taking my power back. So that's why I do what I do. And I now work a lot with women to help them really take back their power from this shaming voice that I call the inner narcissist, because I see that's what it was for me. And I know that I'm not the only one.
Yeah, that's how I got to be doing what I'm doing, is I knew I wasn't the only one. So
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute about how shame plays out in our lives. Now, our society has been built in a way that kind of keeps the trauma ball rolling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about how you see shame playing out in our society and our lives? And we'll go from there.
Well, shame is everywhere, especially in kind of Western cultures. Shame, we have this internalized shame that kind of has its foundation in Christian ideas, this idea of original sin. It's not a human thing, it's kind of Christian thing, this idea that I'm bad, that there's something wrong with me. Shame does exist in other cultures, but not this kind of brand, this kind of internalized shame that's kind of unique to Christian cultures and that kind of thing. And it's very, very corrosive. And it's everywhere. It's in the air that we breathe. We're parented that way. How many of us were told bad girl, or we parent that way unconsciously because that's what we know. When we see someone doing something we don't like, the quickest way to change their behavior is to shame them. Shame is the way that we control, and that everything is kind of controlled in our cultures as well. When somebody steps out of line, we see it on social media. What's the first thing everyone does? Shame them. You're bad. How dare you? Everyone gets offended. And shame is basically the mechanism that we're all taught and that we're all breathing in every day, and that's just super normalized in our culture. And what I'm saying is that just because it's normal doesn't mean that it's healthy. Just because something is normalized in a highly dysfunctional society, and I would go so far as to say that shame is kind of the currency of our culture. It's the way it runs. It's kind of running on this. It's like the code that the matrix of control is operating on. This is how the control, and we internalize this system of control. So no one needs to tell us that we shouldn't step out of line, that we shouldn't do this thing. We do it to ourselves with this internalized shame that we've all taken on. And I think pretty much everyone in West, even narcissists, they talk about that. There's repressed shame underneath that. So even people who don't seem like they're operating on shame, and I think women were more conscious of our shame. We're a bit more connected to it, which is a bit of a double bind, whereas men will have kind of rejected it and compartmentalized it downward. But that compartmentalized and rejected shame will still be controlling them in some way or another. But I believe that this control is operating in everyone. It's just about to what degree, and to what degree people have freed themselves from it, really.
Yeah, and I mean, as trauma survivors,
Mm,
um, we feel shame on a much deeper level because we've been conditioned to believe that it's our fault.
yeah,
And we were abused or neglected because we fell short or we weren't good enough or we caused it in some way, shape, or form. And I think for some people, we allow that to be because how could someone treat a child so poorly? And so we allow ourselves to believe that it's our fault because it takes some of the pain away in a weird kind of a way.
yeah.
So what what is the process that you follow to help your clients kind of break free from that shame cycle?
Well, we're going to get straight into it. Yes. Well, it's shame is very pervasive, and I totally agree that we internalize it as victims of trauma, because as we're children, the parents can't do anything wrong, so I must be the bad one.
Mhm.
And I was brought up in a dysfunctional household, but I didn't know it at the time, obviously, and it
Mhm.
wasn't violent, it wasn't aggressive, it was more kind of a covert type of, and I was kind of sidelined and ignored and
Mhm.
scapegoated in very subtle ways. So all my life I've been and that kept on being reinforced that, nobody else had any problems. Why am I like this? Why am
Mhm.
I crazy? Why do I have this suicidal ideation? I was brought up well, so I must be the one who's wrong. So I totally get that. And that's when you're the scapegoat, particularly in dysfunctional systems, that's by design. The people, the family system don't want to address their inherited shame, their dysfunction. So they need someone in order to keep the system going. They find someone to deposit it all on, and that's the
Mhm.
scapegoat. And that's why the scapegoats are the ones who end up in therapy. So you asked about the solution. And the first solution that I talk about is, and this is really against what we're generally taught, but I've been doing it the way therapy, because therapy and the conventional wisdom says sit down with your shame, feel your shame, recognize that it's a wounded part of you, empathize with it, take it out for cucumber sandwiches, take it to therapy, all of those things. And I've having done that for like almost 20 years, that got me nowhere. I just felt like there was a bottomless pit of shame, and my shame was just kind of going between covert phases to getting malignant. So the first thing that you have to do is to recognize that it's not you. And that's the thing, that this is the kind of revolutionary thing that I'm talking to people about. Recognizing that this is not an inner child, a wounded inner child. This is like a malware. that was projected on you, that's not who you are. You can't integrate it because it's malware. You don't want to integrate malware. You want to get the malware out. Shame is, we're taught that it's normal, but it's actually not. In indigenous cultures, they didn't have this internalized system of shame. So it's a Eurocentric perception that it's normal. So that's the first thing. Recognize that it's not helpful. It's not normal. It's just normalized. And I have an acronym called BREAK. So the first one is break the trance. Recognize that this isn't your voice, that it's a spell. Maybe it's the voice of your mother. In my case, it was the voice of my mother that I internalized. And it's like a pattern. It's like a trance state. So you want to catch it when it comes. So the feeling of shame, or that voice that says, you can't do that, you're stupid, or whatever it says. Don't overthink it. Just recognize and name it, and recognize that it's not you. This is the trance. We want to disrupt it and shift the loop. Then we go on to R. We want to refuse to engage with it. So just like the narcissist out there, and this is something that I recognize, this is what made me I recognized that I had our narcissists out there in the world. We're told to, just ignore them, don't engage with them. And then with the narcissist that I identified inside my head, we're told to sit down with it and try to understand it. So the second one is really refuse to engage with it. So you don't, just like a narcissist out there in the world, you don't owe explanations or defenses to it. You drop the rope. You don't argue with a trance. So using Dr. Ramani, who's an expert in narcissistic people and how to deal with them, she talks about this BEEP system. Don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize. So that's what you do with the voice. You don't try to defend it. You don't try to fight it. You don't try to explain yourself, because all of that, it just gives more narcissistic supply and it gets bigger and bigger. You want to just say, not today. Try again tomorrow. And then E, expose the lie. Call out the shame-based programming. Recognize this is control. This is not my story. That really starts to disarm it of its power. And then you want to anchor it in your truth. So come back to your body. And this is the part that's missing in a lot of healing systems. They just work on the belief system in the head. But this shame is in our whole body. So you want to come back to your body, feel your breath, feel your feet, say your name, the year, remind your nervous system that you're safe and that you're sovereign here. And then K, just kick it out, like shake it out, stomp it out. This isn't mine. Evict the spell from your body and mind. And that's basically how you do it. You reject it totally. You don't engage with it, just like a narcissist. Because when you try to fight and defend a narcissist, it just gives them more and more fuel to keep going. And they find another thread to pull at you next time.
Wow, that's such a clear. I like your acronym because it gives it a clear progression and action steps, so that you're not left guessing with what to do next. And that's huge when you are breaking cycles, and healing is knowing a clear action plan of how to navigate it. So, thank you for sharing that. So, what are one or two, you can choose, um, tips that you can share, or action steps that you can share with our listener to help them along their journey? What can they take with them today?
I mean, the real thing is to break the trance, recognize that this thing, it's like for me, I recognize that instead of like a wounded part, it's like a leech, it's like a parasite, it's like it was sucking my energy. And every time I tried to fight with it or argue with it, it would just give you energy. So recognize that it's not you. It doesn't have your benefits at heart. It's not trying to protect you. This is the biggest lie that blew my mind. Just like with my mother, I thought she was trying to protect me. She said, oh, you can't be a massage therapist, you can't be a healer, you can't be a yoga teacher. And that was, she said, oh, I'm just doing it to protect you. But really, no, she was protecting herself from that anxiety that she would have felt. So that was totally self-centered. And the same goes for this voice. This voice does not have your benefit at heart. It cares about itself and its own survival. It's trying to kill you, you know? And when you realize that, you'll have no sympathy for it. And then secondly, I would just say, like the way I've found it most effective, and for people that I work with as well, just say no to it. You don't have to get angry unless it helps you. You could say, F you, you know, but I found it just like when I, like the other day, I started to feel shame and I could recognize it in my body. And I just said, no, this isn't mine. Goodbye. No engaging, no emotion. And you can get there too once you recognize that it's not serving you. And that's the thing, because we've been trained to believe that this shame voice is serving you, that it's beneficial. And we've been trained to think that if I shame myself more, then it's kind of like, it's a really messed up kind of thing in our head. And that's what I did all my life. I thought if I shame myself first, then it won't be so painful. I'll like beat everyone to the punch and just punch myself in the face first. And then when other people do it, I won't even feel it. And we do the same thing with shame. And it's really messed up. And the psychological community kind of encourage us to sit with this thing. And shame is a bottomless pit of more shame. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like an entity that's going to extract from you. And just say no to it. Just break up with it. Recognize that it's not you and take your power back.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. How can our listeners connect with you further if they wish to do so?
Well, I would say follow me on social media. On social media, I am trauma.matrix. And I also have a free gift for the listeners here. If anyone is interested or intrigued with what I've been talking about, the next step, I have a free guide, which is like 5 signs that it's time to break up with your inner narcissist. And you'll find that if you can follow me on social media, or you can also find it by tinyurl.com/not today narc. So check that out, and that could be your next step to really break free of this thing, because it is not you and it's not trying to protect you.
Absolutely, and I will make sure to include that link in the show notes so you can just click and you'll be well on your way on the right path. Thank you so much, Emma, for being on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Mamahood After Trauma. If today's episode resonated with you, make sure to grab your Unlocking Peace guide from the link in the show notes to start your healing journey with practical tools. Remember, Mama, you're not alone in this. Together, we're mending the past so mamas can mama in peace. See you next time.